Hello, this is theoretically a vocal video where I cunningly have put, okay, my vocal videos for at least the first 2 weeks of January are all my kind of reading goals, or, well, this one's reading goals, but, themes, working out what the fuck I'm going to do for the rest of the year. And this one, yes, spoiler alert, is my reading themes slash goals for 2024. And I think, like my other videos, I don't have a concrete list here. I don't have okay, I'm gonna read this, I'm gonna read this, I'm gonna read this kind of a list. This isn't one of these YouTube videos where somebody presents you with a list of 500 books that they're going to read in 2024. That's maybe a little ridiculous, but they'll have like 20 or 10 books. Like, I'm definitely gonna read these books in 2024, and I'll check back in maybe at the end of the year and tell you if I read maybe 4 or 5 of them before it petered out or I got interested in other things. So this is this is more of not that kind of a thing. A, because I didn't do the work, and B, because I'm trying not to operate on that kind of way in stuff. I'm trying to make a more general guideline for myself, so it's something that something that I will follow, and in a general sense, to guide me through my thing. But I'm not like locking myself into, I'm only reading these books. If I don't read Kim by the end of 2024, my life is a failure. That said, Kim is maybe one of the books that I'm going to read in 2024. So I've got a couple of things that should shape my reading going forward. Number one is, yes, I'm doing the 1901 project, which, coincidence, Rudyard Kipling's Kim was published in 1901. This is a general project for myself where I am investigating what the history of that period was, what the politics, culture, just trying to really kind of transport myself in time to this period in time. Why this period in time? It's because it was the year my grandfather was born. It also happens to be the year that Queen Victoria died. She died in January of this year. So it's got that's the personal thing of like, okay, this is 2 generations ago. This is what the world was like. And what was it like? What was it like? And kind of do a dive into what was the history of the time, what were people reading at the time. That's where this comes in. But also kind of, yeah, like the Boer War was going on at this point, which is thing where you have maybe a self-seeker like Winston Churchill was trying to make a name for himself at that point. War is a great way to make a name for yourself at that point. All this kind of stuff. So that will definitely shape a lot of what I'm going to do during the year, but not everything. I know myself, and I know my theme is fun this year, theoretically, that I'm just also going to want to read stuff because I want to read stuff that it's fun. But the 1901 project is going to kind of reverberate through a lot of this stuff. Now, one of the ongoing projects that I do on this channel, and just for myself, is I do a reading out loud project where I take works that are preferably out of the public domain so I don't have to private them on YouTube, and I read the book. I just read the book out loud into the camera every single day, maybe 5 minutes or whatever, but every single day I just chip away. At the moment I am doing a book that's, I think, is gonna fall within the remit of my 1901 project, because it's sort of like 10 years before, 10 years after, kind of within that scope of like, okay, what was in the zeitgeist at that period of time. And it's an 1897 work, Travels in West Africa, by Mary Henrietta Kingsley, which is this British woman traveling in West Africa, sort of as she's got plenty of native people who are with her, but that she's trying and getting getting a lot of reflections of what her attitudes towards Africa are, and I mean, probably far more informed than a lot of people at that point, attitudes of Africa. But it's one of these things where I think I was listening to Dave White and Alonso Duralde talking about movies more from like the 30s and 40s, and you're going along thinking, oh, like, yeah, these are fun people, you're watching the movie, and then suddenly they take a turn and they interact with a person of color, and suddenly you realize, oh fuck, they're racist. Oh fuck, everyone in this fucking world is fucking racist to our eyes. To their own eyes, I'm sure they were considered very, very liberal of the time, just like Mary Henrietta Kingsley probably would regard herself as, probably was fairly advanced for time. But now time has passed, and now going from being like, oh, very liberal, it's way over here, into like, oh my God, all the words you're using and stuff like that, and just the thoughts of the savage, basically. It's cringy, but it is also, it's like, okay, well, this is where it was 2 generations ago, and that's not a bad thing for me to discover about the world, to investigate and question about the world. So, and be comfortable with the fact that not everybody you read is going to agree with what you say, you know and believe, because you know what, majority of people are dead. The more majority of people have an old history. 99% of the people are dead and racist, or just dead, just generally dead. So that the Reading Out Loud project is going to continue, and definitely I will find works from 1901 or around it that are interesting to me that I can read out loud during the thing. So that's very much something I'm going to do. I'm also going to be trying to find biographies. I guess I could do Winston Churchill. I don't know how much I want to become old man, my father, of like getting into Winston Churchill. Some Winston Churchill, because he's in the Boer War, and there's Candice Millard has got a book out on him. So that is, and she is a good writer. So even though I had difficulties with her Sir Francis Burton book, I wonder if that one falls within it. But yeah, I'm going to try and read histories and biographies all centered around that time to kind of give myself more stuff, and nonfiction stuff about that time, what's going on around that time, I think would be interesting. What is this all going to build towards? I'm not quite sure yet. It's just the general scope of like an era of a time that I'm interested in, and I guess I will see what that opens up to me. But hopefully it'll make me a more informed, richer reader of that time. And I've often just had this kind of little obsession of like, whenever I'm placing things in history, it's like, oh, that was like 1915. It's like, oh, this is like my grandfather would have been like how old then? Just like, it's my anchor point. It is my anchor point in the world. It's a very shallow anchor point. I don't really know much about my family history before that point, but at least I'd have that. So that's definitely what I've got going. Yeah, and I think that's general nonfiction. A lot of that is just my general guiding principle around that, which is around this 1901 project. So, and that's like 1890 to like 1910, 1911, kind of in that period, is what I'm looking at. At the same time, still going to read fantasy and science fiction books at the same time, probably more fantasy, because that's just usually I'm more into the fantasy. I've got my tablet, so I'm definitely going to be reading more stuff on my tablet from that period of time, from graphic novels, comic books. I'm going to continue with that. I've been really enjoying that, even though I've been using my tablet to just read my Kindle books on. So that has also been good. So there's that. I think the only other thing I can think about that way is doodling. I have a book Dynamic Anatomy, which of course I've ground to a complete halt on, but that's one where I want to continue going through that book. That is more of a technical book in a way of I have to stop and I have to do drawings and I have to kind of work it out that way. So it's a different kind of reading because it's very practical. It's directly technically skill-based practical of like what I'm hoping to get from Dynamic Anatomy by Bern Hogarth, who seems like a very old school guy who isn't particularly interested in anything that's modern art, that's lost figurative art, that has lost the centrality of human anatomy in art. Is very, very against that. I do not have a hardcore on thing. I'm just a dude who wants to doodle and wants my my naked cavorting creatures to look vaguely like human beings, and maybe like perhaps in some universe they could have musculature and fatty deposits of pleasing proportions. So yeah, that is where I'm going there. Is there anything else reading wise? Not that I can think of at the moment. I think the only other thing that I would add onto my list is just is BookTube ? That is leaving myself open to the opportunity of participating in the community in some fashion, where I read stuff with the community, whether there's something like everybody is reading it and we're all reading it together and having discussion. I'm going to leave myself open to the possibility I might do that. Now, I can cheat. I can say, yes, I will, but I'm going to kind of try and skew it towards my 1901 project. Or, I want to have fun. I like fantasy. Or, there's the odd lit piece that I also like. I'll just read that, and that's fun. But it's got to be fun for me. It's not blindly just community for community's sake. But I would like to keep myself open to the idea that yes, maybe I will participate a little bit in BookTube community. Not an overwhelming amount. We're talking like 1 or 2 reads, maybe. That's what I'm thinking about. All right. And if I can, I'm going to cheat and try and warp it towards my 1901 project. All right. I will leave it there. That is 2024 reading themes, goals, whatevers.